Morning, y'all. It's Thursday, pink day. The week's coming to a close here soon, and I've got some good thoughts today, I think. So recently in our church, the new program we used to use for the young men of the church, the scouting program, and then we had for the young women a thing called personal progress. The interesting parts about these, if you're familiar with the scouting, so most people I think nationwide is familiar with scouting, and there's a lot of requirements. They give you certain requirements, and then you're supposed to go and do them, and it's a great program. I really enjoyed it, always really loved it, but it was kind of going in a different direction than what the church was headed, and so they decided to split off and do these goal-oriented programs where now, rather than you getting the requirements from outside, now the youth are expected, and really everyone is expected, to create their own goals and move forward. I am a goal person, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But there's an interesting thing that's happened with this whole COVID-19. Everybody's kind of trapped, and a lot of people had plans in order, goals that they were trying to move forward with, objectives, and now they're having a hard time with those. You get online and see a lot of the people who are saying, are you gaining the COVID-19 exercises? For some people are really great, because there's a lot of people, myself included, who's putting a lot of exercises online. But I wanted to talk today about a book that I read a few years ago, that I've really embraced and found that the principles are very true. And so I think that if you can know some of these principles, maybe you can figure out why, if you're having a hard time with your goals being, I'm not going to say trapped, being safe at home, this may be a reason why. So the name of the book is The Four Tendencies. Gretchen Rubin is the author, and the four tendencies are different than like the colors. I'm actually listening to a book right now about the four colors: the reds, the blues, the greens, the yellows, and this is quite different. But what this book really talks about is why we're motivated to do certain things and why we may not be. So the four tendencies, because I don't want to go too long, this conversation, I've actually given more than hour-long discussions, talks, lectures on this, and I'm not going to go an hour here. I'm going to try and get it done just so that you can start to contemplate and think, what kind of a person am I, and how can I become better in this? So the first one is an upholder. I'll preface this. The best question that Gretchen in the book said that you can ask if you're trying to figure out what you are, the best question is, what has been your response if you've ever tried to do a New Year's resolution? Okay, so an upholder, if you say, how do you do on New Year's resolutions? Upholders will typically say, great, love New Year's resolutions. I always do them. I've typically had great success with New Year's resolutions and goals, and that's my thing. Okay, so they tend to have rules and like them and follow them. In her book, she says, where does the motivation come from? She looks for internal versus external motivation. So upholders are both internally and externally motivated, meaning they don't need people to check up on them, but if there's someone asking them to do something, they will move forward and do that. I am my wife says definitely an upholder. I am definitely an upholder. However, I do have some other, I lean towards other tendencies occasionally, depending on what the circumstance is. But upholders, New Year's resolutions, knock those out. Okay, the next one is a questioner. Questioners, when you're looking at internal versus external motivation, questioners are very internally motivated. So they tend to ask a lot of questions. So with New Year's resolutions, questioners, their typical response is, why do I need an arbitrary date to set? Why New Year's? They'll kind of ask those questions, or why that specific goal? But again, they're internally motivated, and so as long as it makes sense to them, they'll go ahead and do it. But they're not externally motivated, so they could care less what other people say. They're like, don't care what other people have to say about that. I'm going to make sense of it to myself, and that's it. Okay? The next one is obligers. Now, obligers, in her book, and she's done a lot of studying with it, she found that this is 41% of the population. So the majority of the 4 tendencies, this is the majority. Obligers, if you ask them how they've done with New Year's resolutions, they'll usually say, not very good. I've never really succeeded with New Year's resolutions, and so I tend not to set them. It's not that I don't like them or that I don't want to accomplish whatever task it is. They just don't seem to happen. Okay, and so that's 41% of the population. So you maybe be thinking, if it's 41, that may be you if you're watching this right now. The last one is a rebel. Rebels, when you ask them, do you set New Year's resolutions? They say, no way, no one can tell me what to do. Not even myself. So if there's a resolution, then I'll probably do the opposite. Okay? Now, the reason why I think that this is significant, I'll talk about it really quick, is moving forward. If you're an upholder, I'm just going to skip to the end and say, you're probably good. During this time, it really doesn't matter. If you had a goal and that's been me, I've continued to do most of my goal. I mean, I still wake up in the morning and I work out. I really don't care. This hasn't affected a lot of my habits. I do what I'm going to do, and that's just because I've got it written down, and so that's the way it is. So we'll skip. Questioners. If you're a questioner and you're sitting here right now, maybe safe at home, trying to figure out why am I having a hard time getting motivated, you're going to have to ask yourself a lot of questions, and they're going to have to be to you, but you're internally motivated. So to be honest, most questioners are probably not having a difficult time. They're loving this. They're at home saying, I'm able to do this, and I'm actually loving it because I don't have to worry about other people's opinions and boss me around. So we can kind of skip the questioner as well. But in the future, when you're around people, that may be something that you want to ask more questions, that you need to say, okay, I don't want to sound too like I don't care, right? But you need to try and figure out a gentle way to take other people's opinions and still make sense of them without sounding rude. Now, obligers, I did not say, they are not internally motivated, they are externally motivated, okay? And remember, this is 41% of the population, so I'm going to say this post, or this video today, is probably more towards the obligers, okay? Obligers need someone, an external motivation to tell them. So, you need to link up with someone. You need to tell someone what your goals are. So you need to say, okay, this is what I'm working on. Get on social, maybe Marco Polo or something. Or you need to be able to say, this is what I'm doing for my kids. So if you're a mother at home with your children, say, kids, I need you to hold me accountable. These are the things that I'm going to do. And so as a physician, what I'll try to do for obligers is try to motivate them by saying, okay, don't do this for your own health. Do this because you want to be able to go play with your children, or you want to be able to go golfing with your friends. Anyway, don't need to expound on that too much, but for you obligers, you've got to talk to someone else. Share your goal with someone else. If you're going to be successful, you are externally motivated. So know that. And then for rebels, you're going to have to play tricks with your mind, okay? So you're either going to have to tell yourself, I found that for rebels, they need to kind of challenge themselves and say, I bet you can't. Okay, so if it's exercise, that's what I've talked about a little bit. So say, you know what, in my mind, or have somebody bet them or challenge them that, you know what, I bet you can't exercise every day this week. And then they will do it just for spite, right? So they'll say, oh yeah, I bet you I can. And so they'll go and do it. So anyway, I encourage you to go read the book. It's really pretty interesting. I enjoyed the book a lot. Again, it's called The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. Whether you're an upholder, a questioner, an obliger, or a rebel, figure it out, because that will tell you how you're motivated. All right? So hopefully this was helpful for you. and you can figure out how you're motivated and make the best of this time being safe at home. All right, guys, have a wonderful Thursday.